Video recording. I know how to run things. Hello and welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, religious deconstruction, where we no longer talk about religion anymore. Sometimes, but also
I
do
mean, I
sometimes.
think today what we're talking about approaches
It's a faith system.
it operates like a theology.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's kind of the bullshit way that I'm justifying this to myself as well.
yeah,
I forgot what episode we're on with these.
like
But
13 or 14, I think.
yeah. This is episode 13 or 14. It is the 3rd of April, 2022. I am Michael Deebs, host of the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, and I am joined by super pal of the dungeon, Jacob.
Yeah,
Um,
yep,
Jacob, let's get pleasantries out of the way. How are you doing today?
just dandy.
Cool.
Just
That's
so
good to
great.
hear. You and I actually, this is an important note, I think. You and I actually met in the meat space
Yeah,
when we moved. Well, not we, but I and
right.
Danko moved him to Milwaukee. We took a stop by your place, um,
Yep.
and I think we had gay sex. I can't remember, but
I don't know if what we did counts. Uh,
yeah.
mostly hands and feet.
Hands, feet, a little bit of elbow stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we did meet
We did meet, and
IRL.
yeah, it was good. We had a good time together, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it was,
I got
you know.
shithoused like I normally do on a Saturday night, but this time in a
Yeah,
different location.
you fell asleep sitting up
Well, yeah,
as we were watching some bullshit horror movie that Dorian insisted was gonna be good.
yeah, it wasn't good. I don't remember
It
the
was
name of
not
it.
good.
We had a
It
good
was
time
called the
watching Jackass together, though. Um, you have suddenly gone silent. Yeah, I can't hear you now. Nope, no sound. The batteries may have died or something. I don't know.
Now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, I just switched back to my computer. That was weird. Well then, yeah, no, we did have a good time watching Jackass and
Yeah.
drinking.
It says a lot about who we are as people, I guess, but
Yeah, it was just a dude's rock kind of evening.
it was three dudes rocking all night.
Just an unimpeachably good, unalloyed good evening.
So yeah. The title of this, I can't hear you again.
Still, again,
Oh, okay. No, you're back. You're back. This is
Jesus
bizarre.
Christ. I think it's your fault.
Oh. Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the
maybe
guy with the stupid expensive audio setup, of course.
maybe producer John needs to give you a refresher on how to do your fucking job.
Dude, I miss that boy. He hasn't
Yeah.
gone anywhere. He just wasn't able to make it Friday. Um, I don't
And
know.
the
Also, Dorian quit, so
yeah.
we'll figure that out. Um, we wanted to talk about the title of this episode is going to be something to the effect of Confessions of a Slaponomic Hitman or something. Um, everybody's heard of the slap, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're
Most people.
discussing 4 news cycles after the fact. Like
Right. Yeah.
the week after, I think, but people are still churning out takes. So
Yeah, people still are churning out takes, and we're you and I are not interested in the romantic entanglements of Will and Jada Smith. We're not interested in them as performers. I think I don't remember the last time I watched a Will Smith movie that I cared about.
what's
Um,
funny is I actually the night before the Oscars I watched Collateral with Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise, and Jada plays like Jamie Foxx's love interest.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like kind of a funny coincidence, but yeah, no, we don't care about them.
I
mean, we
barely
don't
care about the romantic relationships of people I'm very close friends with.
Yeah, I mean, like, frankly, I would
Yeah.
prefer that I have to hear you talk about your partner sometimes. Exhaust
No,
exhausting as
I
annoying.
just I just mean like you know, like the gossip of like who's sticking what inside of who. Like I don't care about
Right.
that. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Do whatever makes
And
you
I mean,
happy.
part of what we discussed too was like we also just don't even really care about the event itself. It's
No.
more discourse surrounding it and the
Right.
reaction, like I said at the top, like this kind of theological like adherent or dogmatic adherence to certain kind of injunctions against speaking if you're X, or being allowed to speak if you are or have experienced Y. It. Anyways, yeah. So whatever. I know you had something planned. So
Yeah, so I found a video that kind of encapsulates a lot of the arguments that we've been hearing or seeing, and just kind of like the bizarre kind of functionality of how this is all being presented. So I'm gonna share my screen. There we go. You should be able to see that now.
yeah,
Oh, can you see it still or no?
can see it. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So this video from this young man, I don't know his name. I don't care. He's on TikTok, whatever. But I found this and I thought it was a pretty good amalgamation of a lot of arguments that we've been seeing. So I'll just go ahead and play this now.
Because this is what I feel like a lot of white people are failing to understand when they attempt to offer their woefully uninformed perspectives on this issue. Many white people see violence as a form of aggression that is purely physical. Many black people do not. And what a lot of white people are failing to realize is that their worldview and that their cultural understanding of these concepts are not universal. When we, as black people, say that we see Will Smith's reaction to Chris Rock's comment as justified, it's not because we don't see Will Smith's actions as violent. It's because we see Chris Rock's actions as being violent first. So what you, as white people, interpret as assault, we, as black people, interpret as a black person defending a black person from another black person. And honestly, you don't have to understand our definition of violence. You don't have to agree. But what you do have to realize is that this is an interaction between black people, making it a black issue, meaning that your white perspectives are not needed.
Can I get first stab at that?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I mean, well, I mean, there's a lot like that. True, yeah, no, that's a really good. That kind of distills a lot of different strands of argument, which makes it interesting. Because some of the things that he said were objectively true.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, people from different demographic groups are going to see, understand, and experience the same event differently. That's objectively true, certainly. But insofar as he's going to say one set of social norms and mores is not universal. Similarly, and this is something like that has been repeated ad nauseum in the discussions and takes and whatnot around this regarding this incident, are that there is sort of an unstated conventional wisdom or understanding among African American people and the African American community at large that is en masse like a universal singular viewpoint, which is it's difficult to take that for granted.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's no, I mean, and I don't want to like go down this route, but similarly, if you want to take an issue, a political issue, specifically vis-a-vis the Black community, again, um, if you were to believe the conventional wisdom as it's stated on Twitter or Instagram or what have you, it's that the Black community universally supports defunding and abolishing the police, which is simply not the case.
Absolutely.
It's a largely generationally split belief. So similarly, in this instance, and I bring it up only just to say that, sure, while there probably is a certain substrate of belief that is shared by everyone in a group, it's difficult to make a claim that everyone thinks the same way. And then additionally, the claim, and I'm approaching this like purely on the level of like, this is an argument, this person is making an argument, he's making a series of claims, and that's it. Like, I'm not, it's not about the racial politics of it, which I know is like sort of hand wavy to say, but you have to have a warrant for every claim that you make. You can't just,
For sure.
like it's not a matter of like, I'm going to make this claim unsupported. And so I was going to specifically be regarding one of the things he said about, I don't know. I'd have to watch it again, but it's about the violence thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were going to touch on it, I was going to, but go ahead.
Yeah. The notion that only Black people see words as violent, because that is stated otherwise, that is his claim, is that a difference or distinction between white and Black folks is that one group sees words as violence and one does not. And again, I've seen that argument made, and then another argument I've made is also that white people are supposedly more likely to recognize violence as interpersonal rather than structural or systemic. So a lot of people have said, why aren't white people mad about redlining or the Flint water crisis or, the war in Yemen or something like that? And it's like, it's such a, well, one, whataboutism is just the lowest form of argument. It's rhetorical, sleight of hand, it's weak.
Well, it's also fundamentally not true. It's like the age old why is nobody talking about X sort of argument, right?
Yeah,
it's
an unfalsifiable claim by virtue of the way it's stated.
Right.
It cannot be proven or disproven. It's simply something that, again, because it's this dogmatic theological claim, you are simply expected to agree with. Truth value of.
And so on the subject of violence, an angle that I don't think you quite brought up that I'd like to touch on is he makes a claim that Black people see words as violence. I think that can be true in some cases. I think if you've got, let's just fucking drag this into the fucking depths of shitty argumentation. If you got Hitler saying, let's kill all the, group of X Jews, blah, 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 etc., that is violence, of course. But he says that, what Chris Rock did was violence, and then there's like no substantiation to that to like prove the point that it is somehow a violent act that he made a joke about baldness or something.
Right.
So we're just again, and it's an argument that we're supposed to just take for granted, where he says you know black people view what Chris Rock did as violence, without like making the case for why it's violence.
And furthermore, the claim nowhere in any of these arguments in the defenses of Will Smith that also seek to indict Chris Rock, there is no statement of or to the effect of violence is wrong. There, it's implicit, it's implied regarding Chris Rock. It's like what Will Smith is purely in response to a verbal act of violence. And so, to me, the most honest, the most logically consistent and honest position to take is, violence is wrong, because that just levels the field immediately.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that it's sort of ludicrous, in my opinion, to state that this was a response to verbal violence is that if Jada Pinkett Smith was bothered by violence, she wouldn't have laughed as there was video that came out where she's laughing as she laughs as he's coming off the stage.
Yeah.
And again, Will Smith laughs at the joke.
Yeah.
So there's just the idea that we are supposed to just accept that there's some problem, that people in that situation were taking umbrage with violence, accepting for the sake of argument that Chris Rock committed an act of violence.
Right.
No one's behavior indicates or bears out that they actually have a problem with violence, because they kept the violence at the level of same intensity or intensified it. So
yeah, and something I'd like to clarify, at least on my end, is I don't disagree with violence in some circumstances. I think violence is perfectly justified in a lot of circumstances. I just think that when somebody tells a pretty tame joke about you not having hair on your head, shoot, I forget who I was talking to. It was somebody on Instagram, but they brought up I think it was Elisha in the Bible, who gets made fun of for being bald. And what he does is he calls upon God, and God sends 2 she-bears to maul a bunch of children to death.
That rules. That's great.
Yeah,
I support.
I support killing children with God and she-bears. Yeah.
I think if there's anything that's been established while we've been doing this show over its run, is that I hold children in low regard. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, no. I mean, like, it's just and this is something that you've said the entire time about this thing. It's like, these are a group of millionaires, multimillionaires, people with immense privilege.
Immense privilege, and I am firmly of the belief that nobody gets rich without exploiting other people.
No, of course not. I don't, and I think it's also worth saying that, like, I'm not the kind of person who is like, nothing's off limits for a joke. Like, like,
yeah, same.
There are certain things that, like, shouldn't be joked about. I'm not going to list any because I'm not a comedian, and I'm not, but, and also, I think part of what's interesting too, though, is that what people don't understand about jokes are that jokes are like a syntactical, grammatical, rhetorical complex of language. Like some things are inherently, because of how words are arranged and how it plays with expectation, some statements are, by virtue of their essence, jokes.
Yeah.
So for someone to say, well, that's not a joke, it misses the mark of what a joke is. You know, a joke, because frankly, a lot of the people saying, well, that's not a joke, they don't think anything's a joke.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like they are humorless, joyless moralists who want everyone to be as miserable as they are. And
Well,
like you now, like the joke, what Chris Rock said wasn't even funny.
no,
It was dumb. It was dumb.
30-year-old movie reference that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And then, you know, another thing that I've seen a lot of is this idea that jokes don't need a target, or you know, like you can tell a joke without, you know, making fun of someone, which I agree with. It's perfectly believable that you can make it. I mean, wordplay. You can do wordplay puns that don't like have a target or a butt end of the joke or whatever. But all these people who say things like, you know, you shouldn't be cruel when you're making jokes. They will immediately laugh whenever, and it's usually people who are, you know, more on the liberal left wing sort of spectrum, who say this kind of stuff. You show them a video of like MAGA supporters, like, I don't know, tripping and falling when they're storming the Capitol, and they'll laugh at that.
Right.
And you know, and then to further make this point, if you listen to this podcast and you enjoy this podcast, the Benzo Rehab dungeon is literally a joke made on Jordan Peterson's expense. And we make fun of him often because he's a piece of shit and an asshole.
Some people just deserve it.
Yeah.
And I think
And not to say that like Jada Smith necessarily deserves to be made fun of for having a bald head.
no. Yeah, I mean, I don't think,
But we are talking about a circumstance where it is a tradition at the Oscars that somebody gets up on the stage and pokes fun at everybody who is attending.
yeah, and it's, I guess, you know, it's kind of like, what do you expect when you ask Chris Rock? You know, like in the, you know, like a couple of years ago, you know, Ricky Gervais did I think it was the SAG Awards. I don't know. Who gives a shit? Like that's part of what's so annoying too about this whole situation is if you're terminally online like we are,
this is rich people sucking each other off.
Wind up having to know things about horrible people, and it's like, I don't want to know what the difference between the Oscars, the Tonys, and the SAG, and the Golden Globes, and the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, no one should know that. If you know what every single award show is, you should, well, yeah. Call for violence after coming out against violence. I want to be logically consistent.
Well, I mean, we didn't come out against violence necessarily. We just think that this is a ludicrous example of violence being applied in the pursuit of question mark. Like, what did this achieve? And you know, one of the other things I wanted to bring up in this conversation is the concept of toxic masculinity, which I think is a real thing, and toxic masculinity sucks. I myself am someone who was raised to, you know, firmly adhere to a lot of toxically masculine traits, and I had to unlearn a lot of that. And one of the things that's really kind of disappointed and like not necessarily upset, but like just kind of like been a weird thing to look at is a lot of people who, you know, I've talked with about you know, subjects on like toxic masculinity and kind of like deconstructing my own toxic masculinity and trying to be a better person, and now here they are like absolutely endorsing what can only be really considered toxic masculinity. um you know, I don't know if there was like some kind of secret signal given between Jada and Will Smith, like go slap that guy or anything like that, but uh that kind of action ultimately removes agency from a woman, right? Because and you know, this weirdo like incel sort of argument that like, oh, he was defending his lady, like this isn't fucking medieval Europe, right? Like uh, yeah,
That was
you go ahead.
well. So I got in an argument with someone because I made that point that it was toxic, that his behavior. The point I made was that a lot of the people supporting Will Smith are the same people who, on any other day ending in Y, would be the types to post about toxic masculinity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, to me, inconceivable,
Yeah,
inconceivable
brown
that,
guy teaches white guy how to speak English.
yeah. Oh man, we should have started out the show with our blood quantum.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We should have done an ancestry.com blood test. So a mega corporation.
One of these days, I'm gonna do the like apocryphal sin of criticizing modern Native American culture, and I'm gonna be canceled into oblivion, like
Wow.
Adolf Reed.
Yeah. Read of the red man.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm using that term purely as because I mean, if you look at, who was it? Frank Wilderson has that book, Red, White, and or no, Red, Black, and White, or whatever. Anyways, point being, toxic masculinity.
Yes.
And this person who was a woman, is a woman. She was then, she is now. Made the point that she, and additionally worth mentioning, a white woman, made the point that she would rather see, and because of how often men do not stand up for women, particularly their partners, which I do think probably is true.
Yeah.
She, because of the degree to which there is no response, she would rather see an imperfect response than no response. And there is a certain legitimacy to that. I get the impulse, but what's funny is this person made the point that because of, in her own life, because of how often past partners have never stood up for her, she now wants someone who would have done as Will Smith did. And, you know, that itself speaks to a problematic attitude towards masculinity on the part of someone who is attracted to men. I, regardless of the gender of a hypothetical partner, if someone expected me to engage in fisticuffs on their behalf, like as an expectation, regardless of the circumstance, that would be a non-starter for me. I mean, it there's of course, if I was with someone and someone grabbed them or was, engaging in like a long sustained tirade of verbal abuse, then yeah, it does come into play. But
Sure.
the notion that again at the Academy Awards, one multimillionaire says a mean thing about another multimillionaire. That multimillionaire's husband needs to get up and hit the other mean multimillionaire. Is just, I don't get it, and I don't see how. It's logically inconsistent to complain about toxic masculinity on a Saturday and then celebrate it on a Sunday. Is kind of
No, I completely agree, and
it's also like that person. You know, there's statistics about DV where like there's a statistic about men who choke their female partners, that those the likelihood of that woman dying at the hands of that partner, like it automatically like exponentially increases. And obviously, like I'm not going to get on here and say, oh, Will Smith is probably a wife beater, but if someone is willing to so readily use their hands to solve a problem, it's not it speaks to a lack of inhibition with physical violence. So I don't think it's something that is like, oh yeah, that's across the board. That's a good thing.
Right, which is something that we had kind of talked about before, and I've talked about this before on previous religious deconstruction episodes, I think, where I drop a little bit of the shitposty personality and I actually talk about my real life. I grew up in a household of pretty severe domestic violence, and you know, lots can be said about the culture of toxic masculinity that exists in America. But I think something that we're really not allowed to talk about oftentimes is toxic femininity, which, yeah. If you wanna exit now, go ahead and do so. But
I'll see where you're going.
sorry, what?
I'll see where you're going with this.
So I have a mother. Many people may be surprised to know that. A woman birthed me, and she had a partner who was my stepdad, and my stepdad was a very abusive maniac. Probably the easiest way I can express who he is as a person. And for a long time, I pinned all the problems in my household on him as the abusive maniac. And what I ended up discovering later on is that my mom was kind of complicit in a lot of what was happening, and it was a trait of toxic femininity where she wanted somebody who was aggressive and would be this kind of presence of violence towards other people. And what she didn't like was whenever that violence was turned against her. But she supported a lot of the violence that he did to other people. And the problem there was that it's like the joke that people made about Trump voters, like, oh, I didn't think the leopards eating my face or eating faces party would eat my face too. And so she supported him in being a violent, aggressive person to everybody else in the world. And the problem was that also he was violent and aggressive towards her because he was just a violent and aggressive person.
Yeah.
And that was the toxic femininity of things, was that she was uh constantly pushing him towards violence, but then like, oh no, it's happening to me and my kids. Why is this happening to me and my kids? I don't understand. Well, you've coerced this person or supported this person in being violent and aggressive.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that gets into kind of the the problem of attachment styles, and definitely like the ways in which cycles of abuse perpetuate and reproduce themselves.
Sure.
I mean, it, and that's not what's going on with the Will Smith thing. Like that, I don't think it's fair to, like, it's obvious it's not fair to speculate on whether someone is an abuser or not.
No.
And
Yeah.
I don't think Will Smith is, but it is a question of, like, again, statistics, math, data, sociology, like
Yeah.
what we know about people who hit people, what we know about people who are so brittle and don't have the psychological means to process and deal with something
Yeah.
later. And part of, so this person that I had this disagreement with, she made a similar point, actually a much worse point than the young man in the video that you played, who really, like, actually, like, he didn't really equivocate or attempt to justify violence as such. But this other person I had this conversation with, she used the phrase quote unquote normal violence to refer to what happened, meaning that there's a certain quotidian kind or amount of violence that simply is, and that occurs. And obviously, that again is such a it's a non-controversial claim. It's a claim that is unfalsifiable because it's so vague that it's like inherently kind of has a truth value to it. Um, but the issue is, and this is something that I think a lot of people in loosely in our age cohort have, especially people who are the more kind of blue check woke school types, is they think that if something has a material explanation, that the mere fact of there being an explanation offers justification as well. And
Sure.
so by this person saying, well, that's just normal violence, there's a tacit justification of that by saying, well, you know, and think um I don't really think that amorality or immorality are, I guess it would be immorality because it's wrong and you're doing it anyways, whereas amorality is just sort of a rudderless whatever. But I don't think that's something to be valorized. I think obviously, like you said, sometimes violence is justified, sometimes it is right to do the wrong thing in emergency situations if it is the most expedient, cleanest way to get something done. But again, nothing about this situation was that. This was
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I mean, the
lowest stakes situation in that.
yeah, this like belief that somehow what was done when Chris Rock made a shitty joke and again wasn't funny, wasn't even like I don't know. Like, it was such a throwaway like line, really. And yeah, that being something that necessitated a violent reaction, um is so bizarre, like Chris Rock wasn't up there saying, "I want to kill Jada Smith and all of her descendants." He said a dumb fucking joke. And I'm not necessarily someone who believes in like you should always have thick skin and you shouldn't take offense to things or anything like that, but um yeah. So a couple of things that were interesting about this whole thing to me personally. I actually have alopecia. I've had it since I was 16. I started losing my hair in weird clumps. I didn't know it at first, and then one day one of my friends said, "Hey, you look like you have mange, dude." And I was like, "What?" And then I took a mirror to the back of my head and was like, "Oh fuck." Um,
Yeah.
I started shaving my head. And it was not great for my self-esteem as a kid. Because I had kind of long hair back in the day, if anybody can imagine that. Um, yeah, there's pictures. Nobody's ever gonna see them. But being 16 when this happened to me, other kids were kind of cruel and shitty and like, oh, look at the bald kid now. Um, whatever. But I never responded to any of those things with violence, and um I'm not saying that any of those kids were cool for making those kind of jokes or anything like that, but like it never occurred to me that I should hit somebody. um and one of the things that's interesting to me is like this overreaction to what alopecia is. um which, yeah, it sucks to lose your hair. Um, but alopecia isn't like a life-ending thing. It's not like it's not something that can kill you. It's not something that will deeply impact your life in any other way except you don't have hair anymore. Um, and so like one of the only legitimate kind of criticisms of Chris Rock is that like, yeah, it's shitty to make fun of somebody's medical condition.
Yeah.
But you know, again, we're talking about multimillionaires, and uh one of the like kind of like treatments you can get for alopecia is steroid injections into the scalp, and your hair will start growing back again. This is something that a multimillionaire can afford. I, as broke ass, homeless, sometimes stupid 16-year-old, couldn't ever afford that or anything like that. Um, and
Did you ever stop to think maybe you should have just like tried harder?
yeah, I should have hustled more. Um,
Yeah. Bootstraps, baby. It's all about the bootstraps.
yeah. So there are treatments out there for this kind of thing. Um, and if she's choosing not to get those treatments, as somebody who has millions of dollars to throw around, uh, like, I don't know. I don't have
Yeah.
any sympathy for it. I don't think rich people have problems at all to begin with. So, that's one.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like their problems are the fact that like obscene wealth turns you into a cluster B maniac. I
For
mean, I
sure.
think
Yeah.
like yeah, I'm kind of joking, but on a certain level, I do think with obscene wealth comes personality disorders and
Without a
problematic.
doubt. Yeah. I, I
So
I I mean, one of the things I said when you and I were talking about this, and I was kind of joking, but also not kind of joking, was you know I forget exactly how I worded it, but what I wanted to get across was, show me any wealthy black person and they're like 3 steps away from a sweatshop somewhere, that they have like a direct influence on.
Oh,
You know,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Beyonce, everybody makes a big deal about Beyonce being the queen bee or whatever. Um, Literally, like, direct connection to sweatshops in China.
Yeah.
So
And
real
that's
girl power, black power sort of moment where you have slaves in other countries, I guess.
right. And it's because of the fact that, well, despite what the blue checks, libs, New York Times, NPR type folks want you to believe or understand, it's that capital fundamentally does not care about your demographic
Oh,
information. And if it does care, it's because it recognizes that it could use that to make more money, um, or that because of your demographic circumstance, it can exploit you even more.
absolutely.
There's no good, healthy, morally right way in which capital uh, understands or uses demographic information of an individual or a group. It's
Yeah.
all exploitative all the way down. And, you know, that is, I mean, yeah, because there's all this celebratory kind of, it happened with, yeah, with Beyonce and with whichever Kardashian Jenner was the first quote unquote self-made billionaire. Um, that, oh, she's the first female or she's the first black woman, whatever. And it's kind of like, I had a friend the other day who said to me, what's the easiest way to make a million on Wall Street? It's to start off with $1 billion in the bank.
Yeah.
That's kind of precisely the thing. It's like, obviously someone like Beyonce, more so than a Jenner, started, like, did build something, like,
For
is
sure.
like, I'm not a fan personally, but are like objectively an absurdly talented person.
For sure.
But also, again, is married to someone who also absurdly talented and came from nothing, but is like a well-established media figure, has an immense amount of power in that specific landscape, or industry. So it's kind of, yeah, it's just, I don't know. It gets exhausting after a while to listen to people, trot out victories of representation in business and finance, because it's like,
In the words of Cornell West, who I
mhm,
deeply love and adore, um, the black faces in high places strategy has not worked, and it's essentially I'm paraphrasing what he says. Black faces in high places is a literal quote of his, as being something that doesn't work. Um, but he talks about this concept of, we put black people in, the White House. We had Barack Obama, and all Barack Obama did was essentially toe the neoliberal line and make things fundamentally worse for poor people everywhere.
mhm.
The same thing is true of any of the black bourgeoisie. They don't uh, they don't make life better for black people. They don't make life better for any poor person. Um,
Right.
and yeah,
Well, it's because the argument fundament, what it comes down to is that, what is said of white billionaires or the white bourgeois is not said of the black bourgeois or the black billionaire by the people who, like, if someone would decry a white billionaire, they're not going to do that of a black billionaire, because there is a you know, it's almost like this weird perversion of the magical Negro stock type, you know, where it's, I mean, it's a little different because you're not really, I mean, the magical Negro is like literally that someone has like sort of this weird supernatural aspect or power. But with this, it's like the mere fact of blackness itself is granted this like kind of moral armor or inoculates someone from moral scrutiny.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And that is, and obviously, like I just like, and the reason I say that, you know, obviously, like all billionaires are bad. Like most in America, most billionaires are white, sure, but that again comes down to like historical specifics and numbers. So, you know, lest someone say, "Oh, why are you singling out black billionaires?" It's like, well, I mean, I don't know. Elon Musk is a cunt too. So
Yeah. We're not fans of billionaires of any color.
fuck Elon Musk, fuck Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was probably involved in the you know, the child trafficking that went on out
Yeah.
in as was Bill Clinton for that matter.
First black president.
Yeah. Thanks, Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't that suck?
Yeah, I mean, I just like it's just been it was an exhausting this was like one of the most taxing like yeah, you know, first world problem type, but like, you know, in terms of like media cycles, this was just so annoying because it was so disingenuous.
Right, yeah.
It was just dumb. You know, like if you're gonna be loud, be interesting. This was not interesting. You know, I want to be interested when I'm frustrated and angry, and I like arguing with smart people, but no smart people are involved in this, including us, because we're engaging in it. And if you're engaging,
I mean,
no, we're dumb. We're idiots for engaging in this.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I do think it's funny. You know, there was like a couple sets of people with this whole thing and reacting to it. One group of people was like, I'm pro Will Smith. The other group of people was, I'm pro Chris Rock. And then there was like a third group of people that were, you're dumb for even talking about it, sort of stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you're talking about it too. If you really
Yeah.
don't want to talk about something, don't actually talk about it. You know, just shut the fuck up. There's lots of things I think aren't very important that I don't even mention, and I don't go, why are you guys talking about this dumb thing? I just don't talk about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, oh, I'm sleepy.
Oh, sleepy little boy.
Baby boy. Yeah, no, I just I think what's odd about it though is it's like I don't remember the last big like sort of Hollywood brouhaha. Like I think it would have been like Weinstein or Cosby, you know, like something that actually mattered, you know, like endemic sexual abuse in the film industry or America's Dad being a fucking serial. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's notable that this is, you know, you're saying Harvey Weinstein is one of the last like big like celebrity things previous, you know, this slapping incident. Alec Baldwin shot a person to death.
Yes.
between then and now.
Alec
And-
Baldwin is probably guilty of manslaughter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And people say, "Oh, it's a horrible accident." There's so much fucking negligence involved in what happened there that you can't call that an accident anymore. But
Yeah.
he's gonna be fine. His reputation is fine.
Alec Baldwin killing that lady is an accident in the same way that what Chris Rock said was violent.
Right? Yeah.
In the way that words don't have any fucking meaning and we can just
Right.
call, apples oranges and up down,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really weird that Alec Baldwin is not being held to account because he was a major producer and influencer of the set he was on.
Right.
There were multiple gun safety issues that had happened when he shot the person that he killed. The staff had walked out of the shooting, not the gun shooting, but the film shooting. Yeah, because they were worried about the gun safety issues. And he decided to keep on rehearsing and acting or whatever. So yeah, no, it's weird.
Oh, actually, something recently that happened too was what's her face Campion, the director of what's the gay cowboy movie with
Oh, Brokeback Mountain.
no, the one that just came out. Power of the Dog.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen it. I've just seen it described as homo. Or, I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. But
It's a good movie. I will say.
I'm not gonna see it. I don't care.
It's fine.
I just yeah. To me, a Western is, it's John Ford or John Wayne or Sergio Leone. Like, that's it. Like,
Sure,
I'm not gonna.
sure.
Yeah. Point being that she said she won an award and she said something about that she has to compete against men unlike the Williams sisters, which the only reason they were like targets of reference was because of King Richard or whatever the fuck
Right.
movie. But to me, like, that is much more, and there was like a kerfuffle about it, but to me that's like much more objectively racist and misogynistic than what Chris Rock did. Like a
Right.
white, again, because it's a white person like name dropping two black women who, like, it's just such a nonsensical, like, part of it too is it's just such a graceless win because she won an award and she has to besmirch two of the greatest athletes in the history of humankind. It's like,
Yeah.
huh? What are you fucking talking about? But I don't know. Point being, like, again, yeah, it really is the point. Though, it's like that is just to me objectively much more of what the Will Smith thing allegedly is than what the Will Smith been stated to be.
Yeah. Some kind of actual violence against the black community.
Some fucking, white. I was about to use a no word. Some old white lady from fucking New Zealand, who probably like says nasty shit about the indigenous population there because they're all fucking racist. Like, have you ever seen Tim? You should listen to Tim Dillon's bit about the Australians. I mean, New Zealanders are different, but not really.
Yeah.
Just ugh. Like, yeah, it's okay. They're white. You can shit on them,
Yeah, right.
They're just, they're not. Yeah, just is what it is. But yeah, I think I've said all I have to say about.
I think also same.
I've said more than I needed to say about this.
Yeah.
I only did this because you asked me to, out of my love for you.
I think that's a little bit of a mischaracterization.
No,
No. All right, fine.
I was compelled to do this by an act of violence.
Yeah.
When you asked me to do this and I said yes, it was
because you were afraid to say no to a brown person.
yeah, I didn't want to be canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would have drug you through the streets. Here's Jacob said no to a brown person once.
Yeah. I'm just very conscious of how I come off the public.
Well, cool. Managed to keep this to an hour. I think we talked about the things that matter, and then said more than we should have probably, but here we are.
This is like a G-rated episode for us, I think.
Yeah, we only talked about killing kids once, which is
I didn't even bring it up.
Yeah, it was me this time. Cool. Well, as always, fuck off. Oh, sorry. We love you, etc. Yeah, take your medicine and shit.
Vegetables.
Bye.